All right, guys, welcome back to the Strike Twice Running podcast. I'm with Trey and Ray as always, and I'm Hunter, and we're on episode number 16. We had to start writing down which episode we were on because we completely lost track of where we're at. Turns out we'd have to take our shoes and socks off to count what episode we're on, so we're moving right along. I'm excited to see you guys. We got kind of a cool episode. This is our first time kind of reviewing a film. It's a short film about Jim Walmsley called Walmsley, presented by Hoka. So we're going to review that today. But first off, guys, it's been a couple weeks since I've seen you guys. What have you been up to, Ray?
Well, recovering. I've been sick for a few weeks, but I did attempt a race this last past weekend, which was fun. It was a 12K trail run out by Helena. I think I texted you both that it was a complete struggle fest because it was like I felt like my lungs were burning the entire time, but it was I couldn't help it. I signed up for it 'cause it's my favorite race. Well, one of my favorite races. And I just didn't want to miss it. I felt decent enough. I was like, I'm gonna go for it. But it's kind of my life right now is trying to get rid of all this crap that's in me.
Yeah, Ray, I felt really accomplished. I was walking the dogs and like we got a new puppy, and so it was like walking the dogs and was like, I'm out today. I'm like active, dude. I was getting some fresh air. It's like, look at me walking these dogs. And then I get a text and you're like, you were at the race, and I was like, all right, well, I didn't do that much today. So, but was that the don't fence me in? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's and I know I've kind of mentioned it to the two of you, but yeah, the Don't Fence Me In trail run, it's kind of like considered like kicks off the trail season for the Helena community. But honestly, for a lot of Montana too, because it's just I think the last 3 years it's just like consecutively just breaks records. Like, a few years ago it was like 900 people and this year's 1350. And it just seems to keep climbing.
Wow.
And understandably, because I don't know if you've done the type of trail system by Helena. I was pretty surprised by it and it's really cool. Like it's really fun to run there. So I that's kind of a goal to do that race every year if all goes well.
Yeah, I've done just a few trail runs out there, and I was pretty impressed. It was not what I was expecting, but um,
Yeah.
yeah. Other than that, just been busy, kind of running 1,000 miles an hour down here. We doing our best to stick with one a week, and we stacked up a couple, but I know we always seem to find a good time to be like, oh man, we're all busy, aren't we? And I know you guys, Hunter, you guys had graduation going up there and conference and all that, so it was it's that time of the year where everybody goes from kind of hibernation mode to every single thing that needs to get done has to happen right now, and so it just seems like it jumps from a zero to 100. So that's kind of where we've been at down here. It's just kind of everything stacked up and all showed up at once, and so ticking those boxes and nothing too eventful. Like I said, got the new puppy, and that was about as crazy as it got. He is a lunatic and he's massive, but he is super adorable. So he's like a Great Pyrenees and we think maybe Great Dane mix. So he's like 3 months and he's 40 pounds.
Oh,
And yeah, his paws are as big as Oakley's and she's like 7. So he's put on 20 pounds since we've had him in like a month.
wow.
15,
Wow.
20 pounds. Yeah. And he's still like, you can still see his ribs. So he's like, the vet was like, no, he's technically not eating enough. And it's like, we're just shoveling food. Like, we're going through bags and bags and bags of food. Dude's a menace, but, yeah. So super, super cute, super funny. And, yeah, that's been about it. I know, gonna head back up to Montana and hopefully hit some good trail runs. Ray, you were just about to get a text, so we might as well do it over the podcast. But we'll hit some goat
Oh,
flats as soon as it melts. I'm sure it's not melted yet, but um,
yeah, we probably need a month. unless you want to do some, climbing through some snow here and there. We can't even drive up there yet, so that's partly it. But usually it's like mid-June is when you can do most of the trail.
Yeah, we got lucky last year and got a couple of good ones in earlier than we expected, but it was wet by the time we got up there. Like it was pretty muddy, so
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's been where I'm at. How about you, Hunter? I know it's been crazy over there too.
Yeah, I mean it always is. The last couple weeks of school go by so fast, and started a new position with the university, and as well as trying to coach the rest of the season with the track team was just crazy. They went down to Madison, South Dakota, and competed the conference meet, and it went great. We got a bunch of throwers that hit the A standard at the conference meet that have been trying to hit it for several years. So it was cool to end on a high note. The girls won the meet, and the guys got second. So super competitive day, um, and things are starting to ramp up with the. There we go, Blue
Mm-hmm.
Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's always good to see the Blue Hawks doing well, and we're sending. I mean, we can fill about half a bus that are going to nationals. So uh,
Really?
it's a pretty good sized group. A lot of women, but we, like I said, got a few men snuck in there right at the end. So um, and Dickinson Running Club, we're starting to ramp up. We've had a couple group runs now, and the cross country team surprised me, and both the men and the women's team both showed up to the first day. So we had like 25, 30 people at the first run, and we gave away like a Nike gift card and some Dickinson Running Club gear and stuff. So we're trying to match BP Run Co. We're trying. We don't quite have the facilities that they do, but we're doing our best. But it's great. Getting back with some of the crew that's been with us for 3 years now, and in August or maybe July or August will be 3 years with the Dickinson Running Club. So that's pretty exciting and starting to ramp up. And got to meet kind of a North Dakota legend the other day, Lisa Holding Eagles. She's one of the best North Dakota runners of all time. She has the women's record for the Maunahey 100, and she's just a beast on the trails and in those longer distances. And she's going to run the Bighorn 100, which is somewhere kind of over by Sheridan, Wyoming, or Red Lodge area, somewhere in there. I don't know exactly, but it's kind of in that Wyoming Montana border area. But yeah, she showed up to Run Club last night, and so it's cool to meet her. I was a little bit starstruck because she's just a beast, and so that's kind of what's been going on with me. And I was thinking about when you were talking about snow at Goat Flats, and I was thinking about the fact that you think we're about done with snow, but I saw the other day that Bozeman hosted the Big Sky Conference track meet for the first time in like 14, 15 years, and they just got dumped on with snow. So
Yes.
they even closed the interstate for like 24 hours. People were stuck on the hills. So it might be another 15 years before Montana State hosts again, but it's kind of
Yeah.
cool to see they at least got an accurate representation of spring in Montana.
Yeah, I think it was good. I think it was good for some of those other schools in the conference to come up and see what a daily training cycle looks like. And a team up here, those guys at NAU. I mean, congrats to Bozeman. I'm a diehard Grizz fan, but track is track. Congrats to the Bozeman guys by 1 point. I mean, that meet came down to the 4x4, and it was, I have some friends that were there, and it sounds like it was absolutely insane. The energy was just nuts. Some former track guys that I know and coached and stuff that went to the meet and just said it was electric. So it was pretty awesome. The true freshman going to Bozeman that won the 400, which is a grown man's race to be winning as a true freshman. I think it was like 46.3
Yeah, I think so.
on a cold day. So that's pretty dang crazy. Props where props are due, absolutely. So it's cool to see. It's cool to see NAU kind of get dethroned as well, even though it wasn't from Missoula. It was good to see a Montana school come up in the Big Sky, and just just in general, because you see Missoula and Bozeman going, to the semis or to the national title in football too. So it's good to see them getting on, getting on track there. And it was nice to see some track coverage for once with all the football success they've had. It was good to see some track coverage coming in. So yeah, it's good. I'm happy that they got snowed on as well. That made me a little bit happy.
Yeah, I heard that there was the steeple pit was mostly slush and snow and ice, and I that just couldn't represent Montana track better. So when I saw all the pictures from the meet, I was like, okay, that's pretty sweet. So I'm glad it didn't snow in North Dakota, but yeah, Montana got dumped on last weekend. So um,
I was trying not to laugh because Mel didn't show up. Like the Mel truck from Billings couldn't make it. So we didn't have Mel for 2.5 days
oh,
last
So
week.
were you living the high life, like you weren't having to work, or were you just having to deal with people freaking out?
The latter. No, I mean, I was still like, I was basically an Amazon deliverer because Amazon could make it because they come from Missoula. But yeah, Mel didn't show up. So like we got like a tons in one day when it finally made it. And that it was a lot, Mel. But anyhow, yeah. It was our truck was stuck on the pass for days, like I think it was like 16 hours or something.
Whew.
I
Yeah,
know.
that sounds absolutely terrible. Hunter, with the steeple pit, that kind of makes you think about the fact that the steeple pit in Montana gets uncovered probably once or twice a year. So when you look at it in the budget, that's a really expensive hole in the ground.
yep.
It costs a lot of money to put a steeple pit in. That's a really expensive hole in the ground just to use it once or maybe twice a year. Some schools probably, if they aren't hosting any big meets, maybe just don't even uncover it. So we have seen that all too well. We know that for sure. The couple years we spent pretending like we knew what the steeplechase was, but we we went to plenty of meets where they were, the garden hose was running the morning of, and it was like, here we go.
Well, I always remember. I feel like our entire tenure in college, we couldn't get our steeple pit to hold water. Like we'd fill it up the morning of, and by the end of by the time the steeple was done, it'd be half empty. And I think one of the years, it might have been like your senior year or something. I think we took some Flex Seal and we took a sandbag and a board and put it on top. You can't drain that anymore. We uncovered it this spring. It was a complete solid block of ice, the exact shape of the steeple pit. It took like 2 straight weeks of 50 plus degrees to melt that. I was concerned that we weren't going to have it melted by the time they ran, and it officially holds water, and I don't think it'll ever drain now.
We did what we had to do. We did what we had to do to make it work. There was a meet the next day, and it wasn't holding water, so we made it work. And I think it was a little bit of the morning of. We were like, throw that sandbag in there, get that sandbag in there. But it works. It holds water. That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I think we could probably talk about random track facts for an entire episode, but we probably better get to the uh, main point of the episode, which is to all of us. We watched the Walmsley documentary, and we're gonna kind of give our thoughts about it. We're gonna review it and all that. So I'm sure that's gonna take us down a couple rabbit holes. Bear with us. But the quick synopsis of the documentary was it was Jim Walmsley's journey. It was about a 2 year, maybe a year and a half long journey that was documented between um, Jim Walmsley's attempt at the UTMB in 2022 and then 2023. Jim Walmsley, who was one of the best American ultra runners ever, set the record in Western states twice, um, competed in UTMB 4 different times. He now owns the UTMB record currently, and just an absolute stud in on American turf. And he was trying to conquer everything on that world stage, and so he made a big move to France to live right next to where the course is, and then became a European in a way, and it obviously paid off. He won the UTMB and set the course record in 2023. So it's that journey of his last time failing at UTMB and then coming back and um, finally conquering that UTMB and getting that win. So, Ray, do you have any first impressions on the documentary?
Yeah, well, just like from a movie aspect, like not the run-in part. Like I was really surprised how like invested I got into this. Because even I don't know, like at first I guess I just didn't really know what to 100% like expect. But like I was just like emotional at the end. Like I will not deny that. Like I was so ha I guess I was just being dumb because I knew he won last year, but I was so like, is he gonna win? Like I was just into this, like, oh, he's going downhill, and like I didn't even care if like I already knew what the end was, but they did such a great job of selling like what this little intense battle, well, not little, obviously, this huge battle that he's going through. But yeah, just that alone, like documentary part, or I guess just on a documentary, really good. I enjoyed that. That was a good one. I mean, I don't even know where to begin on like the running aspect, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I like how you said talking specifically about the film part because I wrote a note that that was similar to that because we all knew the result at the end. We knew what was going to happen. So it's like, okay, how much, how much is this going to shape our minds and our impressions of everything? But what I wrote down is that it kind of reminded me of the Prefontaine movie, Prefontaine, where we all know what happens. And that movie has a very different ending. It's a very sad ending, but even how we knew Prefontaine was going to place fourth in the Olympics, we knew that all along. But while you're watching that race, you're still cheering him on, thinking, "Oh, he's going to make that one last move, and he's going to, he's going to win gold in Munich." So it was kind of like that in a way, where we knew Jim Walmsley was going to pull out the win, but there was points where cinematically they created the idea that he was maybe not going to do it. So I thought it was well done as well, and um, yeah, I got emotional a couple different times as well, and so definitely with the highs and the lows got emotional and chills definitely a bunch of times. So I thought it was well done. What do you think, Trey?
Yeah, I think it takes a lot as like a filmmaker and an editor and a director to make an entire audience forget what happens for about 30 minutes in the middle, because the whole time leading up that hour and 15 minutes, there's, you go through his first time of, not his first attempt at the UTMB, but his 2022 DNF and that kind of process. And you're kind of working through that and that stuff that you're like, oh, this is cool to see the behind the scenes, but I know that, and it was great. It was super entertaining. And then kind of that like hour 15, hour 20 to the end, you like you said, that what's happening, but your body is like, you're like so invested and so drawn in that you're like, oh, like, and it's just so, it's like you have to be so, talented and like really dedicated to what you do as far as the film side goes to make an entire audience of people who care about something that's like as niche as running in some ways. Like it is big, but people who pay that much attention, it's like to almost like, put that aside and let that emotion take over and just be so invested in the film side of it. And so yeah, absolutely. Like I got so emotional during it. It was just like, what is happening? Like it was such a roller coaster. And like there was a couple of times where I like stood up to grab something off the table, or stood up to like plug the computer in, grab the charger, and I bumped the computer and the screen would show like how much time was left. And it would be like, oh, there's like 45 minutes left. I'm like, oh, thank God. Like I'm not as far into it as I thought I was. So it was like, it was so good. Like it was so enjoyable. And when you start it, you're like, dang, this is a full length movie. Like this is a whole thing. And yeah, you get to that point where you're like, oh, I really hope this doesn't end. Like I want this to keep going. And so yeah, as far as like, not getting into the really the takeaways or the running side, the overall first impressions was like I was so drawn in so quickly, but the that last like 30 to 45 minutes was just insanely good. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I was so impressed by all that, and kind of talking about that a little bit, like um, with some of the specifics. I remember there's like talking about speaking to like some of the specific moments. There's um, kind of a great moment in the 2022 as far as like if we're going to talk about some takeaways, like the that attempt when he he doesn't finish, and the main point that he makes and the main thing that he takes away in the interview and talks about is like that's something I had to go through. And it's like you're watching this guy that's, I mean, arguably the best American ultra runner, and you know but also like one of the best ultra runners to ever do it, period. you know and you're seeing him lay out his bag, and he's like, oh, I'm going to try some different nutrition, this wasn't quite working, and it's like it doesn't matter how far into your career and how much support you have and how much, like, he has access to like to everything under the sun when it comes to running. And it's like, no, it's such a mental and individual thing. It's like he was still sitting in his house, like trying to plan his nutrition and trying to figure out, like, he talks about it in 2022 at the aid station. He's like, I didn't eat enough, I am bonking, like I am done. And and it's like there that was like one of the moments I got super emotional. Like I was like starting to like tear up because like you see him like just broken, like emotionally. He gets, really welled up, and it's like, damn, like this sport, this thing, like this is not, it doesn't care, about, it doesn't care. And so that was like such a cool takeaway to see, like getting what you need doesn't mean getting what you want. And so he went into 2022 after the move to France, and he was like, I I want to win. I need to win. I want to win. I want to win UTMB. And that like drive and that dedication is like it's gonna get him there. But he thought it was gonna be that year, and he DNF'd, and then had to run. He had to qualify in. He had to run in the next year to 2023. So that was like, I just felt like as far as takeaways go, that was like my one big takeaway of like when you look at that, like at that point, he said he felt like he was farther away from his goals in his career than ever, even though he was like coming up on the biggest moment in his career. But it was like, yeah, getting what you need doesn't mean getting what you want, and it's really hard to see that at the moment. So that's that was kind of my takeaway. So or one of my big takeaways. So I'm really interested to see, with 2 hours of content, like what was a takeaway that you got? Ray, we'll jump to Ray first. Like, what was a big takeaway that you got out of it?
Um, honestly, like away from him, just like what he went through, I kept getting drawn to just the concept of the crew part, especially his wife, like how crucial and the role she played. Like, I mean, it's not like they don't. I don't want to say like they undermine that by any means, but I think that kind of came across as like how important she is for sure. But just like that, well, there's one moment in the film where I can't remember what A station it is, but he comes in and he said something along the lines of like, I don't think I can hold them off. But he sounds like so like devastated when he's saying it. And he also just probably just doesn't have much energy in a way just to talk. But like the emotional like support that he got from her, like I connected to that moment so much because it's just like I don't know. It's just she played such a huge role, and I don't think they really showed the rest of the crew all that much, even though I know there was more people. But I think that was just so evident, like how I guess just I'll say it again, but like how crucial that is to win some, a race like that big. Like you need to have like yourself, like to be a certain part, but like the people you have with you, like they have to be almost like the same level, and it's a whole different like game. And I really liked seeing that like a lot. Like I just thought that was a little cool like insight. I don't know, just I've always wondered what it'd be like to be part of like a crew, you know? So I guess I was drawn to that just as much as like seeing like all the, him obviously. But yeah, I don't know. I found that so motivating just seeing what they do. Did you have any other takeaway, Hunter, to add?
Yeah, as you guys were both kind of giving your thoughts there, I was making notes, so I'm going to circle back to kind of what Trey was talking about. Trey mentioned how he had to kind of earn his way back to UTMB in 2023, and you think of all these ultra runners as, oh, they're in because they got a name. If you see Jim Walmsley sign up, he's in. But he made it very evident that earlier in that season, even a couple months out from the race, he was not entered into UTMB because he went through the lottery process, did not get in, and he had to earn it. So it was kind of cool that like all runners are going through the same things at every single level. So he wasn't ever guaranteed a spot in UTMB based on his DNF from the year before. So it was kind of cool to see him kind of earn his way just like everybody else is trying to do. Um, and he took that, he wasn't like, oh man, I have to qualify for UTMB or anything like that. He took it as a, let's get better, let's practice some of the things I've been working on and stuff like that. So I thought it was cool to see him, take that so lightheartedly and just use it as an opportunity instead of, an opportunity to complain, which is kind of speaks to him in general. He always has such a positive attitude about everything. But to kind of bounce off of what Ray was talking about with that support system, that was a big note that I wrote too. And as I've been watching all this, trying to absorb everything for when I run my ultra marathon this summer, I keep thinking that I need three, four, five people on my crew. And you look at Jim Walmsley, he has one person, but that one person can meet his needs emotionally, physically. They know exactly, or she knows exactly what he needs nutritionally and everything. So the moral of that is if you can have one person that is your person, then that's better than having four or five people that don't know what you need and don't know what you're gonna need to hear at 70 miles in when he's at his low point. So I thought that was super powerful, and it just speaks to how important she is to the whole story. And I don't think that he would be as successful without her. So I think that's kind of a cool point, and um, I'm thankful for my support system as well, and you guys and all that. So it was kind of that. I mean, that part's emotional too, and so it's cool to see that, and that it wasn't underplayed, but it wasn't overplayed either. So I mean, you could have even focused on Jess even more because she was such a crucial part of that story. But um, for me, I was kind of thinking a lot about the move to France, and for one, I mean, what a huge commitment because you're just gonna uproot your life for one race, and it seems like such a dramatic thing for one race. But you think about Jim Walmsley, he was a pretty simple guy. He had one goal, and he thought he had one solution, which was to race or train where he was going to race. And so that move was a big part of the documentary. And he was so invested in learning the culture and the language and learning how to train like a European. So that was kind of a part that stuck out to me. And I'm going to ask you this question is, do you think Jim Walmsley could have won UTMB without the move to France? Do you think that was an essential part of his conquering of UTMB? Trey, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, and I'll jump right into that. I'm going to clarify real quick too. I think I misspoke when I said that he had DNF'd the year before. I believe it was actually the opposite way around. I believe he got fourth that year. He bonked super hard and he got fourth. Because I think the point they were making was even with a fourth place finish, he didn't have a spot in, and he still had to go. He raced another ultra to get in. I can't remember exactly the order just because we've been talking about it now. I got it swirling around in my head, and um, but I'm pretty sure he had actually finished fourth, but just wanted to clarify that. But yeah, he just such a crazy journey. But um, I would say like when you look at when you look at what he needs on a race day, and like I loved how much they focused on that, and I loved how much like they showed him like, oh, I got to go find an empty alley or a street just to be alone for a second before the race, and like people are yelling like, oh, like hey, it's Jim Walmsley, whatever, and he's like waving and being polite, but he's like trying to get to that point in his mind where it's like we're about to turn it on for 100 miles, and there's gonna be such a range of highs and lows, and so um, I just I loved getting a little bit of insight and just a little bit of that sneak peek into like mentally who he is going into it. You can never really know, and there's only so much you can cover. But it gave such a cool aspect to that when his wife makes a comment um, that my best advice that I give him is don't be Jim, and it's like that mental aspect is so important to him. And I think anyone that's that dedicated to be able to dedicate all of their time in their life and that their one goal is to win that one race, whatever they decide the solution is going to be to get them to that point, they need that to be the thing. Whether it's true or not, it is true because it happened and it worked. So, once he decides mentally that it's like, no, I need to move there and I need to train with them and on that course and around that for, to feel like I'm going to be, ready. Um, I think it was 100% crucial. I think he needed it. I think he had to do it. Um, and cause I think when um, it's kind of like when you get hurt by something when you're little and your parents are like, jump up and do it again right away, or you're going to let it sit and it's going to scare you and it's just going to build and you're going to build it up to be more than it actually is. And so once you DNF at a race like that at 70 miles, and then you fly all the way back to the US and you spend 8, 9 months trying to like get to this point where you are think you're ready to go back and you're training in a place that isn't the same and you're training around people that aren't going to that race. um I think you hit a point where it's like, you got to jump back on and kind of take that beating again. And so for him, it was like, no, let's just take that beating every day. Like, let's just live right at the base of the mountain. And then you just get so much stronger. And so I think mentally, like, I think it had to happen for him. And he talks about that too. And, it obviously worked. So I guess, when the, when the outcome is proven, I guess the hypothesis is just kind of, he proved the hypothesis by the outcome. So, um, that was kind of my impression of it anyway, but I don't know. What about you, Ray? Did you have kind of a different take than that or?
No, you said like two of the quotes I even have written down here. Like I'm like, well, there goes my answer, Trey. But like seriously, like I just to kind of echo what you're saying, like I wouldn't necessarily say like physically, like the training was like he got like a head start by living there. Like I really do firmly believe it was just more like being in a mindset of adapting to some, because he talked a lot about just like the culture and just it wasn't really like, you know, all about training sessions. Like just like being in that area,
Mhm.
I think just allowed his mind to be like, this is my one goal. And clearly it paid off in the end. Like it just, yeah, you really did like take like two of my quotes that I wrote down.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're good. No, you're good. Yeah,
No.
I don't know. You said it great. So
Well,
yeah.
just to your point, like what you just said, the something that you just touched on that I think was super super important was the when they talk about like the culture, like running this race is one thing and being a part of UTMB is one thing, and like running is only going to take me so far. It's only going to last so long competitively at this level is what he said. I believe is like running's going to end. At a competitive level, at this level, it's going to end at some point. You're going to enjoy running forever, but um, he was like, the culture of like yeah, learning to speak French and living over here and like having that culture and that being a part of our lives is like, right 2 weeks after they get married, So like it was such a cool thing for it felt like his brain was so, it was able to focus on something else while doing all the right things, physically, that mentally he got in a good spot. And so when when you brought that up, it definitely makes you kind of think about that part of the documentary. Is like, damn, he definitely talks about that too, where it was very important. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Hunter, I don't know if you have. I'm sure we stole everything you want us. No, I'm just kidding. But what was your take on, like, do you think he had to move there? Like, do you think it was a need, or
Well, at first, yes, or at first, no. Okay, so he initially I thought when you look at it at the surface, you look at the talent of Jim Walmsley and his ability to train and adapt. That alone tells me that he would have the ability to accomplish that feat, no matter where he was training. He could be training in North Dakota with no mountains, or he could be training in France. I think that no matter what, he had that ability. But the more you guys talked, and the more I even just looked at the quotes that I had on my sheet here, I think that the mindset was the biggest breakthrough for Jim here. And um, one of the quotes that he said, I think he said it a couple different times. He said, "Home is where you base your emotions, your time, and your energy." And then his wife talked about how it felt like Jim was almost not taking his training seriously, but that wasn't it at all. It was just a more relaxed form, a less stress form, and a more low pressure type of training that he was going through because he seemed to be where he needed to be. And so she could see it. She could see it in just his attitude and the way that he was training, and it didn't seem so urgent to train and do this. He was able to kind of enjoy it along the way. So the like I said, the more I thought about it, the mindset is the biggest breakthrough here because all along, even when he first ran it in what 2016, 2017, something like that, I think was maybe, I'm not sure, but somewhere in there was his first attempt. He had the ability probably back then as well. Like he was one of the most physically gifted athletes around, but that that mental breakthrough was, I think, what got him there. So yeah, I agree completely. At first I didn't, so it was, you guys kind of changed my mind as you talked. Um, but yeah, I love that. Like, you know, um, that's the advantage of me living close to the Mater Trail system. Is my idea of success is to train on that trail as much as I can because how else are
Mhm.
you going to replicate the race course other than training on it? So to me, that makes complete sense. So in the mountains, as Jess talked about, the Alps are just different. There's nothing else like it on the planet. So it just made sense. And his winter training I thought was very interesting with his skimo, which it did mention the second time I watched it that it's ski mountaineering, but I had to look it up the first time because I was like, what is he talking about? Like, but he got so much vertical training throughout the winter, which was kind of low impact. So I think that probably helped keep him healthy, as well as it was something new and kind of a new challenge for him. It seemed like. So I think he was able to keep like a fresh mindset going into all that. And so I thought the winter training too was kind of interesting, and that probably helped, push him over the edge as well, kind of getting a full training cycle as a true European. So I was intrigued by that, and um, it looked it looked super fun. I mean, that's probably some of the best skiing in the world right there. So I was kind of blown away by his winter training. Ray, you being kind of a ski hill enthusiast, what do you think about the winter training aspect?
It's funny because I loved it for the running part, obviously. I'm a runner, but I love that part of the film too. I was like, oh, I had a smile on my face like the entire time. Because like I wrote down how he wrote something along the lines of like, it's been a lot of falling as he was like starting it out. And I'm like, that's so true. And there was just something so great about that, which I thought was just actually kind of like the whole film I'll get to. Like it was just very human throughout the entire film, I thought, of just like he's just a dude that just likes to run, basically. Like, I mean, there's a lot more behind that. But like here he's just this incredible athlete, he's like, yeah, it's just a lot of falling. Like the skiing part. I'm like, yeah, like that's so real. Like him just saying that, like brought it down. And obviously you can see he probably transitioned to like a good skier quicker than maybe the most, compared to the average person, because it looked like what he was doing was a pretty good, pace and speed. But yeah, I loved it. It made me actually like, I'm like, it's only May and I'm really excited to ski already, which is terrible. Like
Okay,
that's
so we got Hunter making comments about before we started this. Oh, I can't wait till the school year starts again, till the summer's over. And then he stopped himself. He's like, wait, I won't say that. And now you're talking about skiing. It's like, dude, we've had sun for like a week. All right. Just give him up for a minute, dude. Let it happen. So, but well I mean, I just feel like uh some of the things I was thinking about while you guys were talking about that was like, Hunter, to your point, like I kind of was on the same page as you when it started, where I was like, this is so, it's awesome. And I get like mentally like how it would help you, but at the end of the day, that race is like, it's brutal. And like if you're not mentally there anyway, it's not gonna matter. But like, I was just kinda, and then at the end when there's that comment, that quote at the end where he says like this race is not, conquerable by a human, it's conquerable by the human spirit. I felt like really spoke to that. That's what really cemented it for me. It was like, yeah, he had to move there. He had to be there. And at the same time, he's spending that entire time talking about home and talking about his roots and talking about what that feels like. And so you can tell um that to Ray's point there, he's just such a regular guy, like just such a normal dude. But that aspect of feeling like he was at home in the Alps and feeling like he was at home on that course, mentally, it's a massive boost, and it's just so familiar. And then, that the human spirit comment is like, yeah, that's, it seems like he's really, truly, fully believed that like that's what it's going to take. Like, I'm not going to do this physically. It's going to be, and then you see all that come together and like you kind of think about all that stuff and you're like like sweating out of your eyes a little bit. You're like, damn, this is tough. And then you just see him like round that corner into Chamonix, and it's like it was just insane. It looked like they were gonna like freaking burn that town down. It was insane, like that finish line. And so it was like, wow, like when that all came together, that was like for sure when I was like, okay, like that dude made the best decision of his life. Like he went over there and did what he had to do, and it was like it was just so cool to be able to follow it and feel like, just feel like you were watching this absolute like masterpiece unfold. But it's like, damn, it's so cool to see just a regular guy fulfill like his lifelong dream. It was like, this is awesome. This is so cool. But um, yeah, I would say like those are definitely the big things that I saw and big things that I took away from it. Um, but it's been kind of interesting to see how different we viewed a lot of things and how similar we viewed a lot of things that were kind of the same scenario. The one that I was gonna the question that I was gonna bring to the table that is kind of just to get not off topic because it's all about this documentary, but just to something a little bit different is um, you know I guess I didn't think about it until after it was done, and really until we started talking, it started popping into my mind more. But he kind of was in this really cool role over there where he was working with like, oh, we need to slim the shoe here or do this and do that. Like he was kind of working on this like on the design side of things, and it's like do you guys think that like him feeling like he is more than just a runner, he is like a bigger part of that brand? Because it was obviously like something that's carried him through his career and something that's been a part of his career for a long time, but um, feeling like he has the input and all of that to be like a deciding factor, and then he gets to put those to the test. Like, do you guys feel like maybe that mindset of feeling like he is more than just a sponsored athlete now, like he's going to be something much more important and make a bigger impact, make a bigger impact on the company and just kind of runners in general? Do you guys think that maybe that could have helped his mindset, like he wasn't just doing it for himself as well? I mean, it popped into my mind. I don't know if I have my mind made up on it, but I just wanted to propose that, like throw that out there. To I guess we'll start with Hunter if you got any thoughts on that.
Yeah. First off, I'm really glad you brought that up. I didn't write that part down, but just to the part where you know you see the founder of Hoka with a Dremel shaving off the side of that shoe, it just like gave me Bill Bowerman vibes and the waffle iron, and I was like, I just like for some reason I just loved. It was like a 2 second part of the film, that part right there, but I absolutely love that because, like you said, he is a bigger part of the running community, whether he realizes it or not. But I think one of the most amazing things about Jim Walmsley, as we've talked about, he's just a regular dude, but that just shows how humble he is. And so there's a possibility he doesn't even truly realize that or understand that. But to look at it from the outside, it's like, if that was me, like how proud would you be to, because how valuable is it to have somebody like Jim Walmsley having input on the design of shoes? It's invaluable. You can't get that with somebody who's grown up just designing shoes. You're getting it from the best of the best. So if I was him, I'd be insanely proud of that alone. But like I said, there's a chance that part hasn't set in with Jim, and Jess probably realizes it, but there's a chance that Jim doesn't even realize it because he's just trying to be the best version of himself, and that's it. He's not trying to do it for the fame or the money from the sponsorship. I think he genuinely likes spending time at Hoka and giving his input and meeting people from the community. So, yeah, I mean I think that's a super big part of the film for me, anyways.
Yeah.
To add to that, I mean, I feel like I don't, maybe they consider this, but he's basically like an ambassador for Hoka in a way, like in the end, like if he says this works, that could just be enough for other people to be like, well, this works for him, so I'm going to do that too, just because of his character, you can list everything, like how amazing of an athlete is, blah, blah, blah. Like, I mean, that is enough to be like, okay, yeah, let's, like you said, trim the shoe here, make it better here, blah, blah, and that's just going to attract all the right reasons for people who like Hokas.
when when he had the moment where he's like, there wasn't even anything in the road, it was like a small rock or something, and he rolled his ankle, and I was like, the whole time I was like, Ray is losing it right now watching this. Like, all I could think about was you on the other side of the screen being like, I knew it, like, and it's
I
yeah.
wrote I wrote 2023 rolled ankle. I wrote that down just because I was like I've been there when he showed, like, when he the photo or whatever, all bruised up and swollen. I was like, yeah, mine was worse. I'm just joking, but
I
yeah, I was
remember
like,
seeing yours was pretty bad. Yours was
yeah,
pretty rough, dude.
I was like, that's the part where I was like, oh, I can connect to that part. I shed a tear for him just because that sucks.
Yeah, also insane to think that in the same training cycle, in the same, technically on the world stage in the same running season, he went from having like a couple of complete tears and a partial tear to setting the course record, on probably the hardest,
Yeah,
or at least, I mean, that's got to be up there, but kind of the Cadillac of ultra running. But yeah, it's so funny to see that. I love that scene when uh kind of that, like you said, that Bowerman feel. My favorite part about it is when he was like, these are going to be the ones that win it. And he was like, they look exactly the same as last year's and they're different. They're just different. And it was literally just the Dremel. It was like little stuff. And it was so cool because it was like that little piece of him being like, these are it. These are the key of like, it just taking control of every aspect that he can control. I can control what the shoes can and can't do differently, and then we get the Dremel out and now we're doing this, now we're doing that. And it's like, he's like, yeah, they're going to look the exact same in the photos. They're going to look the exact same, but he's like, they're different. Like these are going to be the ones to do it. And it was like such a cool moment because it's like 2 seconds and, and you don't think about it. And then it clicks and you're like, holy shit. Like that was probably a part, you know, we're talking so much about mentality. It's like, yeah, that was definitely there, you would think. But then, I laugh because you bring up the point that it's like, you don't know. Maybe none of it was there. Maybe he just was so laser focused on, and all that stuff will come flooding in later, and it'll mean more later. But, whether, like you said, whether he likes it or not, like it is a part of the community and other people are noticing it and in a good way, in such a positive way. So, um, those were my big takeaways and the big questions and stuff that I was interested to see what you guys took from it. It's 2 hours long. We could probably talk about it for 4 hours, but that was my big stuff. Just open it up. Do you guys have anything else that you got notes on or really stood out or stuff that you wanted to ask?
There's one more thing I just wanted to kind of address because it's really quick, but as towards like the beginning, I wish I didn't wrote it down, but I did not. But I just thought it was a really cool way of how he explained ultra races. It's something like, you gain this like super endurance and then you just blow it all in like one go. And I just thought that was like such a real way to put like what an ultra race is because it is. It's like months of all this like intense, gradual training, whatever, then it goes down and then that one race. Then he like it showed him trying to come up the steps, and like I've just seen all these clips and videos of other people, that they can't walk after a race like that. And I don't know. I just thought that was a good quote of just explaining like what that race are, those type of races are like. It's superhuman at a point, and he's blow it all in like one day.
Yeah, I like that too. I mean, that's it's definitely different than a lot of things. You look at professionals in all sorts of sports. Baseball plays however many games a season. The NBA's
162
yeah. I knew you'd know that, Trey.
and
But
31 spring training.
there you go. And I think NBA's 82 games, 84 games, something like that. The NFL's 17 games. So it's a little different when your ultra season is just a couple races. And for Jim, that in 2023 it was two races. It was a qualifying race and UTMB, and that's it. So it's kind of it's definitely a long game with those kind of things because you get one shot a year, and that's it. So that's definitely a unique part of that. And you train and train and train and train, and yeah, blow it all up in one final go.
Whether you DNF or not, dude, it's all gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the only last thing that I had was just props to the guys hauling cameras around the Alps, following Jim on skis and on trails and climbing up mountains and running through Chamonix. Like they had so much footage of Jim, and it was just incredible to me that you get a crew because it's not just one guy with a camera. It's a couple guys. However they did it, getting steady film of somebody just blazing through the mountains. So props to those guys. I mean, I got a GoPro and I've filmed some runs, and it is the shakiest, worst footage I've ever seen. So 90% of it's useless. So I thought that was pretty impressive. Trey, what do you think of that? Anything?
Yeah, it actually, you made me think of one other quick thing too, but which I'm sure we'll just go on the round and do this for another 45 minutes, but no, but um it literally was like there was one point when they were doing the schemo and he he was skis on his back, and he was working his way up to a point where they could actually like ski up again. And I was like, they just got, it's like the old school like Bear Grylls footage where they were like, all right, we're gonna scale this peak, and it's like this guy's got like, where is he holding what is he climbing with? Because the camera's somewhere. Like, what does this dude use? Like, he's not using both hands. So that cracked me up because when you see it on a professional caliber like that, and it's something that you love, like skiing or something like running, and you see it, and you're like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I'd love to have some footage like that. And then you do the GoPro or you take some footage and then you realize like how absolutely atrociously hard it is to get that footage. It's like, how did you get 2 hours post cut that good? Like, it was just lunacy. And I was like, the whole time I was just like, this is so well done. But it shows you, I mean, it was filmed over like a 2 year period. Like, they took so much time and so much care and so much effort, um, which is awesome because that's kind of a testament to what the UTMB and ultra running is as a whole. Is like, it's going to take so much time and effort, and it's not going to work out the first time. And you're going to have footage that you got to go back and figure out, and where do we cut and what do we do. And um, but the one thing that just popped into my head for no reason at all was I loved the transition of when he was first there and he was talking about like, man, French is extremely hard because the village that they were in was so small and nobody spoke English, and so some of them had like a little bit different accent. And so he was like, yeah, this is my Duolingo studio. I just do Duolingo, trying to learn and whatever. And then you're trying to pick up the accent, and they're doing all that. And so it was so fun to watch that. And then a year later, when they come back, I laughed so hard because when he talks to just the crew and he's just doing the interview, he sounds like Jim Walmsley. When he is with a group of like skimo buddies or French runners, he sounds like a French person who learned English speaking English. He sounds like a French person that's like, there's a few times where he even like is searching for words in English where he goes but like in this like really hilarious like French person that learned English accent. And so it was just so funny to see that transition of like a full year later, and the way they did the cut, you kind of got both sides like back to back almost, and so it was so noticeable. And then you latch onto it for the rest of it, and it just cracked me up. So it was like kind of when you were talking about the filming and stuff, that popped into my head. So that was the the random tidbit that popped into my head for no reason, but that's it. I swear, that's all I have. That's the last one, I'm sure.
Yeah, I did also write. I'm glad you did bring that up, Hunter, because I did have a thought, like just thinking to myself, like the crew for Hoka, like they got their job, like, yeah, you're gonna go run with Jim today. If like, somebody like, dude, what? Like that'd be a fun job for some people, but for others, they might kind of hate that.
they,
But yeah.
I feel like they might have opened it up to who wants to do the running footage and who
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I just can't imagine if you're trying to get into in that world and you're applying for jobs as a cameraman, and one of the requirements for jobs is must be able to handle 20,000 feet of elevation and be able to keep up with one of the best ultra runners in the world. Like that, they had to have mentioned that when they were recruiting filmers. Obviously, Hoka, with it being a shoe company, they were probably
Yeah.
some, kind of runner enthusiasts. But I imagine there was people that they had to just say no to because of the physical requirements of that job. I can't imagine that was an easy search trying to find a film crew that could do that. I mean, that's impressive to me, and that just kind of shows the dedication that went into making that film. And we talked quite a bit about the film itself and how well done it was, and it was nice to get your guys' thoughts, and hopefully you guys watched the film before watching our little review. But if not, we basically spoiled every bit of it. Spoiler alert, in 2023, Jim wins. That's a record. So now you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. But
it's 100,000 times better than anyone talking about it. So you should definitely watch
yes, you're gonna hear our impression and then watch it and then have a completely different impression. So go watch it. It's what, about an hour and a half. So it's absolutely worth your time. We all loved it. So we're gonna give it a 5-star rating. We don't have a rating system. We just created one, but it's getting 5 stars from the Strike Twice Running podcast. So that's all I had, guys. With that, that's the episode number 16 of the Strike Twice Running podcast. And we'll see you guys next week with hopefully a guest, depending if we meet next week or the week after that. We got a guest lined up. It'll be kind of our first guest in a while. It'll be the assistant race director for the Mahahe trail race series, and he's also a 100-miler himself. So he ran the 100-mile a couple of years ago. So we'll have some super big Mahahe insights from this guy, Mike Haas, coming up on the next episode, hopefully. So with that, we will see you guys next time.
Cheers.
See ya.